don't think I can.
Wait for it.
John, you're asking too much.
Hold up. Go ahead.
Oh, God. Hey, guys. Welcome.
Hey.
Episode 80. Movie Schmovie.
Episode 80. How's everybody doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. It's a beautiful day outside.
Is it?
We're recording on a day in the summer.
Is
that
it
sort of
really?
feels like fall to me.
It feels very
I
cold.
kind of wanted to pose that question on Facebook and say, is it fall? And then I feel like people will probably be like, no, you idiot. It's only August 14th.
When does fall
or
technically
15th.
begin? Is it like late in August or is it in
Let's go with that. I'm
Yeah,
okay with
there's
that.
an
I
equinox
think it's in
or
like
something.
September, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't know anything about that.
Yeah.
But it's a beautiful day.
It
It's a
is.
great day to record a podcast, that's for sure.
It is.
Even
Yes,
though
it
we're
is.
inside in the basement where the temperature is pretty standard.
Yeah.
And you never know what season it is if you didn't
You
know.
really don't. You really don't. It's always a little bit cooler in the summer and a little bit warmer in the winter down here. So.
Yep. Keeps you guessing.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to be talking about a lot today.
We've seen what a really eloquent person might call quite a few, lot of films.
It's a good way of putting it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good way of putting it.
I like that.
But yeah, so the feature review that we're going to go into this week is going to be the Kick-Ass 2, the sequel to obviously Kick-Ass.
Right.
But we are going to talk about a couple other smaller films before we get into that.
Get the hell. We're
Yeah,
going to talk about other shit?
We do that all the time. You know that,
Oh,
Ronald.
man. Oh, man.
We should call it movies, schmovies.
Movies.
Just not to confuse anybody that there
Right.
is only one film
Right,
to be
exactly.
discussed.
Who's the guy that gets pissed off that we're talking about multiple? I thought it was about one film. What the
Right.
I can't.
So what did we see small? Like these little VOD films or however our means might be.
Lovelace.
Lovelace, yeah, we watched that. I
Eh,
don't know.
It was a little better than the TV movie.
Oh, we're all kind of shrugging our shoulders at
Yeah, if you could
Lovelace.
see us, we.
Yeah.
Not enough BJ scenes. That was weird. That's
Yeah.
what the movie was about.
I guess you
Throats.
should probably just rent that or purchase the original
Yeah.
film.
You know,
It's based
Ronald,
on-
I just want to tell you, if you're looking for BJ scenes, I don't-
there is source material.
I don't know that like a relatively mainstream indie film is going to be the best place to look for those.
Yeah,
Presumably, you might have acquired this film through the internet.
you're right.
You were already at BJ Town.
I know.
then.
And
Yeah.
I went the softest
Yeah,
core.
that's true. Speaking of which, I did think that the movie tried to have it both ways in a weird sort of way because I think it knew that if it told the story straight up, it would be far too depressing.
Yeah.
And if they didn't, if they glossed over the more depressing aspects, then that would be seen as really sort of glamorizing really a sad story. I mean,
Yeah.
just to kind of review, to most people probably know what the story is about, but it's about Linda Borman, who was sort of renamed Linda Lovelace when she made the film Deep Throat in 1972. And the film went on to make, I mean, hundreds of millions of dollars, right? Am I correct about that?
And she made like nothing.
She literally
Yeah.
made like $1,250, they
Yeah.
say.
That is, I saw that at the end of the
That
movie.
made me so sad.
Oh my god, that's.
But what was that other money from? That was just from the other stuff she was doing, like the products that she had.
Oh, I'm sure there was money to be made,
Yeah.
you know, and definitely
touring
they
and stuff
gloss
like that.
over in the film almost anything else that she did. And I think that's one thing the movie did, even though I'm not trying to cast any blame or further aspersion on her character, because the story really is very much the story of how she sort of gets taken down by this experience in a way that those around her weren't.
Right.
Like the pornographers that made the film just benefited off of it, and she was the one who kind of became like the social pariah to some people, and then to other people she was a feminist icon supposedly. Although it's very strange retroactively to think that it was like a feminist, like a feminist victory to be giving head to people. But I guess at that time it was about like sexual revolution, and it was more about just any woman who could enjoy sex in that way.
Yeah.
But the film is an absurd film. Have you ever seen Deep Throat?
I have not.
Yeah, it's absurd.
Well, it took the world by storm at the time, and it kind of had this weirdly legitimate sheen to it. It was before people really realized that porn was a very sad industry, and that there's a lot of people being taken advantage of, and that the people making the money are not the people, really taking the beating, so to speak.
I was like, how's he gonna finish
Yeah,
that
right.
sentence? It could be very
Yeah.
interesting.
The real troopers in the porn industry are those that are on camera. Let's
Got
put
it.
it that way.
Got it.
So it's a very sad story, and I don't know that there's really much. I mean, I think we've seen this. We've seen pastiches of it with like Boogie Nights,
Oh yeah.
and we've seen other films that were set in
That
and
is
around
the
porn.
best. That is the blueprint.
So this movie felt kind of like it didn't really have the scope of a real epic film or a historical film, and it didn't really go much into the porn industry, and it didn't really go beyond that, just sort of in a very narrow way painting Linda Lovelace as a really sad victimized person. And
that's really, I feel like that's the only accomplishment I really felt the film did, which was to make her a victim. Which, not to say at some point she wasn't. I mean, I don't know her in and out story. Her in and out like that.
Yeah.
But
don't get proud, Steve.
yeah, I'm
Keep
patting myself
talking.
on the back. But yeah, I don't know. I just felt like the only takeaway from the film was really, the idea of her being a victim. And from what I read a little bit after seeing the film, like there was a lot of questions about, I think there at some point she had 2 different bios out about her, or autobiographies that she wrote, like at one point almost like glorifying what she did, and it was like the best thing ever, and then later in life it was like the worst thing ever. And is it just a revelation she had later in life, or was it just somebody who was kind of changing their mind about what happened to them or what they did?
I would say that from what I could tell, I may have read the same stuff you did, Steve, but from what I could tell, the earlier books she wrote were much more a celebration of that persona that she was known for and an attempt to cash in on it, and that she may not have had much to do with the actual writing of that stuff.
Got it.
The weird part is the way this was done, it could have been porn aside, this could have been about any situation that's volatile and stuff like that, which is cool that it was a universal story. Like, I feel like people go through this thing.
Yeah.
But it wasn't unique enough in terms of the scope and the time. The 70s didn't feel like the 70s. It was like a bunch of stuff that was just very like generic about it.
That's a good point.
And I feel like
that way too.
The actor-wise, it could have been a really good movie. You know what I think it is? The problem is kind of what happens with a lot of people's stories. You get a person who is, in theory, a decent writer, but it's almost like the only thing I can really compare it to is this whole idea. Like, there's a scene in this Bruce Lee movie where Bruce Lee's pointing at the sky, and the kid keeps looking at his finger, and he keeps slapping him on the head, and he misses all the glory beyond. And that's what writers do when they write people's stories. They don't see the magic that made that person who they are, why the story was so significant, what it did for people, how it affected them. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? This was a huge thing.
Well, I would say writers do often do that, but sometimes they don't. So they miss that mark a lot.
They miss the mark a lot. I mean, like, think about all the good movies we see and realize how much of a rarity it is to have a story about a person that we know in some way, shape, or form, or we know of, told well. Mm-hmm. There are a million stories told about people that are horrifically told, and this felt like one of those. It just didn't feel like. I think the best stories are the ones that, even though I don't like a person necessarily, what they stand for, that is told amazingly. And this was not one of those movies. It could have been done way better. There were way too many stars in it for it to suck as much as it did.
Well, what did you think of the performances? I thought Amanda Seyfried.
I thought she was great. Right? I hate Peter Sarsgaard. I'm starting to realize I don't like him a lot.
But by the way, is it Seyfried?
Seyfried. Yeah, I've heard it a million ways.
Well,
1 million. Exactly.
She's good.
We will run the movie Schmovie pronunciation confirmation process on this. I'll make an interjection to know. But Amanda S., who I've known, I've enjoyed her since Veronica Mars was the first time I remember seeing her
I feel
years
like
ago. I thought she could have been, with the right script, she would have been great as Linda Lovelace.
Sharon Stone overplayed the whole.
Sharon Stone was, because Sharon Stone can actually be good. She's actually been good in a few things, but I thought Sharon Stone, she picked one emotion to play, and she just played that emotion.
She had like zero heart. Like, she was just like a cold woman.
It reminded me of the Hilary Swank's family in $1 Million Baby, the way they were just these hateful caricatures of these like greedy, selfish people who don't care about their loved one. I thought that her mom it was such a cliche the way that she kind of turned her away. I don't know. Every scene felt like it was that they almost shot it on the cheap. Like, even when she goes home to see her mom, there's no real character development there, but you understand because you've seen a million of these movies the type of relationship she has with her mom. And I think the movie repeatedly did that, where what you said about it being generic, it just plunks you down in the era, and it kind of gives you a few signifiers that this is the 70s, and you kind of remember all these movies that took place in the 70s that were kind of good, and it kind of trades on that. But do you know what I mean? But it was only about like 1 inch deep when it got to that. There was nothing beyond that. And when you get to the fact that most of the scenes are, we're really.
I can't help it, John.
No, that's all right, Steve.
I'm a little kid.
Yeah. Anything that has to do with length or size or mouths or choking on dick that we say is going to sound like an innuendo at this point. But no, I just felt like I kept wanting it to be more than it was. And then I thought, am I expecting this indie film to be a bigger budget film. And I kept realizing, no, I think you could have, if you were really clever, and this might be what you were getting at, Ronald, you could have, with a really good script, have with those actors and with that scope, you could have made a really compelling story. It wasn't the fact that it wasn't a big budget extravaganza. It's that they didn't really do anything to make it seem anything more than the sum of its parts. And I kept thinking, somewhere in there, they must have been sitting there on set going, is this really all we've got? Like, did we just finish that scene? I guess we're moving forward, because the movie kept just kind of moving forward.
It moves very fast.
And I knew all the beats, though, because we've seen this story of, like, the innocent person who gets caught up in something and then it turns bad.
How'd you feel about the reveal? Like, remember that scene where they're like, man, they're bumping around in that room?
Yeah.
And then a half an hour later, he was beating on her, which we knew already. Mm-hmm. But it was the type of reveal you're like, man, that was so unnecessary to show those two perspectives the way they did. I didn't feel like it was good.
I mean, the reason that bugged me, at first I thought, well, that's kind of a neat structural trick. Mm-hmm. What we're talking about, folks, if you haven't seen the film, is just that about halfway into the movie, it sort of backtracks and retells events from a different perspective or with different details filled in. And to me, it just felt sort of arbitrary and like it didn't really earn it, and it didn't really have enough of an effect. It just seemed like a cheap way to have its cake and eat it too. Yeah. To say, okay, we're going to show you the fun side of this that maybe you want to see in a movie about porn. You want to see, you want a picture that everybody was having a nonstop party. And then they show the ugly underbelly of it. It's not too different from the way Boogie Nights goes with a rise and fall type structure, but this just seemed like they were trying to get you to enjoy it and then to see the ugly side of it in a really pointless way. Like, that didn't really add anything to the story to me, to see it cut in half like that.
It was more showy.
I felt like it was more to make you align with, like, her. Yeah. With Linda. Like, to the point in the film where that device kicks in, is kind of where she starts to accept, like, how bad her life has become. Mm-hmm. And then that's where it's, like, starts to tell this story almost again, from the perspective of, like, it was a shot that cuts and, like, we get to see the end of that shot through her eyes. Right. The actual negative part. Which I think that's the only thing that I could kind of come up with that was like the reason why they even used it, as opposed to just showing this story with the negative, mixed in with this party. And I mean, it didn't really bother me that much personally, like the whole way they re-showed those scenes. But I do think to sum up my entire opinion of it is what Ronald said earlier, which was that it just feels like a story. It's a very generic story where it should be a very special story, a special script, a special film about a really historical figure in film and in the porn industry, just in women, female empowerment, like John was saying. But it just could have been plugged in with anybody. It could have been about any story about a person that was taken advantage of and left out to dry. But that's not what this should have been. You know what I mean? And that's exactly how I walked away. It felt like a movie I would just like catch on TV. Very mediocre.
But did you have many expectations going in? I really didn't.
No.
Yeah.
No,
so I can't say too disappointed. I think maybe we just sort of, with the cast involved, it seemed like this movie might be one of those little indie movies that could, but it really does seem forgettable. If there were any effective moments, one of the best was a moment where she and her husband Chuck have had a fight in the street, and she's fallen down on the ground, and these two cops come up and they're about to help her, and then when they recognize her from porn, they sort of assume, well, who knows what this chick's into, and they kind of back off. That just kind of speaks to the sort of casual sexism of the era, and the idea at that time that a woman who would be involved in that kind of thing would be into all kind of shady business, and who knows why she's out in the street. But and any cop worth their salt would have probed a little further into that. I honestly don't know if anything that was depicted in the movie is the real truth, though, and that's the one thing that I seems like it would be an interesting thing to judge, would be how historically accurate was the movie. I have no idea about that. Do either of you have any acquaintance with the facts about this?
I'm not sure. I kind of wanted to read her book just because I was interested in.
But kind of what we were saying though, like in terms of some of the hands that the film was in, like Rob Epstein and Jeffrey Friedman, the directors of Lovelace, I kind of just got a sense that it really was kind of like just like a poorly made film. And one of the movies I saw also over the past week was The Iceman, starring Michael Shannon, which is actually the true story of Richard Kuklinski, who I never really knew much about him until I saw one of the documentaries. I think there's actually two of them that were made for HBO. Mm-hmm. I saw the one that came out in 2002, The Iceman: Confessions of a Mafia Hitman.
I think that's the one I saw too.
I haven't seen the one from '92, but I mean, just a crazy ass story about a man that his pretty much, I think, documented as killing like over 100 people.
I have heard recently that there's some dispute as to how many people he actually killed versus him kind of talking himself up.
But I don't know. The Iceman, actually, this is a film that, like I said, Michael Shannon, who I absolutely love, and I had wanted to see this. I heard a lot of good things about it when it screened at Telluride last year and also at Toronto. It didn't really get much of a release here back in May, but it's becoming available now. And I had the pleasure of seeing it. I did like the film. I don't feel that the reason I kind of segued with the filmmakers because I felt like it was kind of just a generic film in a lot of ways. Again, outside of his performance, I think that again a story that is true in most ways with the number notwithstanding of how many people he had actually killed, but a bigger than life story about this real man who possibly killed over 100 people whose family had no idea that he was doing this. Who, they basically thought he was like an investment trader at some point, which is absolutely absurd to watch play out on the screen.
Yeah.
But I mean, they buy it. I mean, because they don't know to ask any different, and because he's providing for them and things like that.
Well, I saw the first part, and at that point, he's saying that he does voice dubbing for Disney films.
Right. Well, and at that point in the film, he's pirating porno films.
Yeah.
That's our nice also transition between the two films. But there's just a lot. I don't know. It's just it left me with the same feeling as Lovelace in a lot of ways, which was in better hands. You feel like this movie would actually really feel special and stand out, not just from performance wise, but the actual story itself and the script. And again, talent. There's a lot of really cool names involved. You got Michael Shannon, like I said, Chris Evans is in it, James Franco's in it briefly, Ray Liotta, Winona Ryder, and some other names that you would notice the face that people, I don't know their names, but I know that they're from other films. Robert Davi, who is like basically in every mob movie you've ever seen, probably he's also in this film.
He's also one of the Fratelli brothers in the Goonies.
In Goonies, he's also a maniac cop. If you've ever seen it, anyway. But it's just.
Steve, I believe it was the Goonies.
The Goonies, right. It just felt like this one I had more of a higher expectation for. Than Lovelace, and I feel like still I was kind of a little let down / middle of the road on it. If not for his performance, I would totally just kind of gloss over this film. I mean, I don't even know. You've seen him in TV shows like on Boardwalk Empire and the films that he's done, like Take Shelter. I thought he was amazing in that, and it just you wonder like when he will break. He's a well-known name now. He was in the Man of Steel film. And he's going to be a huge star at some point, and he's going to be somebody I feel like that will win multiple Oscars at some point in his career. What's that role? And it feels like this could have been that role. If that other X factor was there, whether it be the script or the direction or something else for him to just like take it next level. But he is a stone cold, killer. And obviously literally that's what that guy was in real life. But there's scenes in this film. He's a hulking man. He's like 6'3", 6'4", much like the real life character. And he's just hard to watch. Like he's scary to watch, even though it's a movie and he's an actor. And that's just impressive to me. Mm-hmm. I can't wait to see what he does. I know he's got a lot of stuff on his plate right now that he's going to be involved in over the next couple of years. So maybe one of them will be what takes him off. But
I hope so.
And Boardwalk Empire comes back in a couple weeks.
Exactly. Yeah. So. And he's somebody that I think a lot of people over the past 2 years have taken more notice of for sure. And he's gotten a lot more involved and with I guess more mainstream titles like Superman or Man of Steel.
I was going to say if they have advancements in Kryptonian neck surgery, he might be back in a future Man of Steel film.
This is true.
Otherwise, I don't think so.
But I would recommend actually seeing the Iceman because I find like mob stories. I'm really intrigued by that stuff and mobster films and just real life true crime, American crime. Really crazy story. I'd also recommend watching the documentary that I mentioned earlier, which is actually better.
The only thing the guy ever shows remorse for in the real documentary was hurting his family and hurting people that knew him and that cared about him and stuff, which makes sense. But
yeah.
And I think the movie is very much about that, his attempt to have sort of a double life, right?
Absolutely. Oh, it's totally. And Chris Evans seen him in this after seeing, him in this whole Marvel universe now. It's kind of cool to see that, he can actually be something else in more of a dramatic take. And I think he's really good in the film,
Ryan Reynolds?
What's that?
And not a bootleg Ryan Reynolds?
I don't know. Actually, I kind of like Ryan Reynolds also, though. So
I like Ryan Reynolds, too. I need him to be in movies like this to differentiate himself because they're kind of in the same lane. Like, Young, scrappy, muscular, taller men.
I like bootleg versions of people. I have one in my mind that I always think of because I'm always confusing these two actors, and they're both rather obscure. But I think Josh Gad is a bootleg Dan Folger.
Yeah, you're gonna say that. This is true. This is true. Speaking of Dan Fogler,
Fogler, is it Fogler?
Fogler.
I said Folger.
I saw a Scenic Route.
Oh, how was it?
That was actually pretty good with him and Josh Duhamel. Duhamel. We got to get these names down.
Yeah.
But that was actually pretty good, man. Not great, but pretty good. Not going to go too deep into that in case we want to talk about that later. But speaking of Dan,
Okay.
Solid. Definitely his best thing he's ever done. He's
Yeah.
really good in it. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, really solid movie.
I know you saw something else, Ronald.
Well, I want to talk about a smaller movie before I talk about the bigger one.
All right.
I saw a movie called Breaking Upwards, starring Daryl Wayne. I don't know if you've ever seen him in anything. Zoe Lister-Jones. Can I show you a picture of her?
Yeah. This is gonna be one of those.
Yeah, I think she's really pretty.
Yeah.
You've seen her before?
No, I just like freckles.
She's really pretty. But she is in this movie. She plays a person with the same name, and her name is Zoe. Her boyfriend's named Daryl, and they decide to basically give their relationship a break. So they break up. Now, sort of break up. They have these breaks where, like, so out of 7 days, they don't see each other for 4 days, and then they kind of see each other in between, and then it kind of changes form, and it becomes a little more open where they don't care who they date, or at least they say that, and it's about kind of the compromise that you make when you feel like you're uncomfortable in your relationship. You want to try different things, but you still love the person, and how inevitably it can only have one of two endings, right? So it was an indie movie. I love indie movies. It had its moments. There aren't too many people in the movie besides the two of them, honestly. It was solid enough. If you want to see something about a relationship.
You seemed excited to bring this movie up, but now you seem
you
really
didn't sell
utterly
it at all.
depressed to talk about it.
I don't know. The more I think about it, I didn't hate it, man. I actually thought it was pretty good. But
The more I thought about it, I didn't hate it.
it was, I don't know.
They ought to put that on the poster.
I realized that I watch a lot of indie romantic comedies and or romantic movies in general, but it's definitely worth checking out. It's a solid movie. What'd you see?
I know we both saw a movie that has a documentary that's been getting a lot of notice recently called The Act of Killing.
I mean, the act of being great.
Act of Being Great. Have you upgraded it to great? Last time I heard you speaking of it, you seemed almost more like this movie made you nervous. You weren't sure you had processed it yet.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a brave thing to do.
I thought this movie was such a weird concept, and it was so hard for me to figure out why. Like, the opening crawl of the movie is just a little bit of text, and I think it describes the movie and points out what the movie is in a way that no description could. So I'll just read that text, and then we'll talk a little bit about it. In 1965, the Indonesian government was overthrown by the military. Anybody opposed to the military dictatorship could be accused of being a communist. Union members, landless farmers, intellectuals, and the ethnic Chinese. In less than a year, and with the direct aid of Western governments, over 1 million quote-unquote communists were murdered. The army used paramilitaries and gangsters to carry out the killings. When we met the killers, this is the documentarians here, when we met the killers, they proudly told the stories about what they did. We asked them to create scenes about the killings in whatever ways they wished. This film follows that process and documents its consequences. Because when I heard about this movie, what I thought was strange is why? Why are you choosing to make a movie about these killings in this way? Mm-hmm. But what that narration tells you is that when they met these men, they were shocked by how proud they were.
Yeah.
And they thought the surest way of getting at that was to get them to tell the story and get them to reenact the story. That makes sense in context, is to say, like, why is this person proud of these war crimes that they've committed? These are awful men, and we're kind of over their shoulder, and we're kind of seeing them laugh and seeing them have happy, comfortable lives, and they could just point to someone and say that person's a communist and take them out in the middle of the night. I mean, this type of thing happens.
I don't mean to laugh about that. It's just...
No, the brazenness of it. It's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
it
It's
is,
utterly
really.
ridiculous. It's shocking. And the one thing this movie made me think about when I was watching it was how quickly we get into the head of this Anwar Congo guy, the guy that it centers on, who it's not clear whether he was one of the worst, but he definitely seems to be sort of a celebrity in Indonesia. He's known. We see him appear at different rallies throughout the movie, and we see that he's kind of a beloved figure. We do see a few of these gangsters interact with each other, and there's talk amongst them about whether making the movie is a mistake because it's going to make their cause look bad. They're very worried that when people see the movie that the filmmakers of The Act of Killing are making, that people are going to see that the communists weren't as cruel as the gangsters that attempt to wipe them out. And
Which is a strange thing.
it's just a very strange thing that it seems like these guys are only now beginning to consider whether their actions were wrong. You know, it's like in the process, you see this guy 40 years later examining his behavior from 40 years before when he was taking people out in the middle of the night and cutting their throats and garroting them with wires and stuff. And you kind of go, okay, well, he's only just now going, oh, you know what? Maybe that was wrong of me. Maybe those people weren't very happy to have that happen.
I don't think
them.
they had a mirror. They didn't have anything to really reflect.
Yeah.
He kind of says that thing about like basically what happens when you're young and impressionable. Like he's very, although he aligns with everything that he did when he was younger, he kind of readily admits that he was so impressionable when he was younger that he would have done anything for the cause, whatever that cause was. It's very made up. Like all of it is very like. It doesn't have any legs. Like none of the things that they do have legs. Like it's very hard for them to explain things outside of the violence. Like when they're questioning who were the communists, they're just like they were people that didn't like the country, the state of the country. They said they didn't want movies with violence because it was affecting the youth, so we killed them. Right. What?
It's a really unsettling film.
You have to watch it only because I don't want these things to happen, but you have to know that for every beautiful thing, there's a very ugly truth that exists in this world. It was rough.
It's like the kind of movie that you have a hard time saying that I really like that movie.
It's kind of like when somebody posts something on Facebook that has like it's like about like a death in their family or that someone in the sick or something. It's like and it's like you click like.
Yeah.
It's like there's got to be some other like I acknowledge this or
right,
I hear you or something instead of like.
Like a head nod or
so it's
something.
like to say I like, you know what I mean? To say you like a movie like that is
Sure.
kind of like to say it's an experience is true maybe.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah, The Act of Killing was a crazy movie, man.
Yeah, I know you saw a big movie that came out this last weekend in the theaters, right?
Elysium.
Which you liked, right?
I did.
You liked it or you loved it?
I think I loved it.
Because from what I gathered, you loved it.
Well,
I don't know the last movie you tried to sell us on over Facebook. I can't recall that last title.
I wanted to love this, and then I heard mediocre things, and then it kind of slipped off my radar a little bit. But I'm wondering if maybe people were expecting too much. What was it that what pushed it into love for you?
What pushed it into love is the same feeling that I got when I watched Oblivion. Kind of that you've seen the future before. We've all seen the future before in movies. This is like a sort of similar world to District 9, just dirty, filthy, struggling people. It's more towards the economic thing, kind of the divide, where now, especially now, there's really just pretty poor people and pretty rich people, and really kind of no in between a lot of the times. And seeing it kind of portrayed the way it is through this, and through a director like Neil Blomkamp, it's pretty amazing. It plays on the idea of the future and all that stuff, but it doesn't insult you. So Matt Damon plays Max, who's a poor dude who's had some legal trouble and wants to go to Elysium, which is this basically ship that was kind of put into orbit because the Earth's resources kind of depleted the Earth. It kind of got destroyed, essentially.
So it's like the haves and the have-nots,
the
right?
haves and
Essentially, it's
have-nots,
like
yeah.
every Earth is a shithole. At
Earth
this
is
point,
a shithole.
and there's a space station or something.
Yeah, it basically recreates the best parts of Earth. And you're not allowed to go there, and he wants to go there because he wants to be there. He wants a better life. He's always want to go there, but something happens to him that kind of pushes his need to go there. There's a plot to take advantage of one of the richer people and get to Elysium. Kind of kicks off from there. Although there was a lot of complaints about Jodie Foster and her crazy accent in the movie, and the idea behind Elysium is that Elysium is so culturally rich and so blended that everybody kind of has these people speaking French to each other and Spanish and all this stuff, and there is no real.
So it's a hybrid accent.
It's a hybrid sort of accent, so which I really liked. I thought it was cool after. I mean, it's annoying as hell at first, but then just seeing Jodie Foster be Jodie Foster.
What I've heard was that the movie in the first half was addressing some of these interesting social ideas, and then when it gets into the climax, that it just turned into an anonymous kind of action movie.
Man, I don't know how else to say this without feeling like I'm insulting large groups of people, but I think that people.
When has that ever stopped you before?
I feel like people do not want a smart movie. They don't. A lot of people don't want smart movies, especially when it comes to sci-fi stuff. They don't want really smart movies. Now, one thing I will say is the character, what was his name in the movie? Kruger, played by, I don't know how to pronounce his name.
Charlton Copley? The guy from District 9.
Yeah. Now, if you like District 9, he's the polar opposite in this movie. He's like, he looks very tall in this movie. He's really muscular. And you can't pay attention to anybody else when he's on the screen. Mm-hmm. He's like charismatic to the point where it's uncomfortable. He's so good in it.
Well, that's the funny thing is because I loved him in District 9, and which was a movie I liked but didn't love, but I loved him in that. And so many people pointed to his performance as one of the worst things about that movie, but I was shocked at that. What did you think of him in District 9, Steve?
I thought he was great.
Yeah.
Imagine how you feel about him in District 9 and then double it for Elysium. He's like uncomfortably charismatic. Like,
well, it's funny that you put it that way, though, because I do think some people don't like his kind of amped up, sort of frenetic style of acting, but I think he's one of those guys that is kind of fun to watch in that way. But is he just a badass in this? Or?
He is. So basically Elysium has like basically border patrol. And in order to maintain, it's like this cool idea that people don't think about. To maintain peace, this nice United States that we live in, there has to be somebody that wreaks havoc on the world that we don't really like to talk about. The soldier that does not mind walking up on a foreign person and ripping their head from their bodies. He's that sort of person. And that person has to exist. We don't think about that ever.
That has to exist.
That has to exist.
You know That's what Ronald's saying. Okay, so we have that established right now. We know Ronald's standpoint on
anybody
immigration.
that follows news involving the military knows that we frequently have to go up to a foreigner and rip their head off.
Rip their heads off.
That happens all the time, and it's just one of the ways that we keep the peace, Steve.
Is that person?
There's no other way.
You don't get to be the world police without going up to a foreigner periodically saying, "Excuse me, sir, may I rip your head off?" And then doing it.
But that's kind of the element that exists. Sharon Stone hires this rogue guy.
You mean Jodie Foster?
Jodie Foster. One and the same.
That's the best twist in the movie is that Jodie Foster is actually playing Sharon Stone, playing the president. Or
that blew me away.
Same generation of actress.
It's actually Linda Lovelace's mom in space.
But she hires this rogue sort of protector of Elysium, and he's a fucking asshole. And he has this band of people that have to kind of do what they have to do.
You know, studios should just basically take all of their marketing money and just hire you to explain what their films are about.
Can you imagine during the pitch of the movie where I say Sharon Stone instead of Jodie Foster? They're the same
We always
person.
hear how there are no new ideas, right? So they get Ronald to go see a movie and then tell them what happened in it, and it won't be what happened in the movie, but it'll be a new idea for a new story.
Totally new movie.
You'll be the idea man for Hollywood.
Yeah.
But you would recommend? I mean, I was going to see this anyway.
Yeah, I think it's really solid, especially since
Matt Damon,
Sharon Stone's in it.
No, with the
Bomb Camp,
the Tom Cruise movie.
Matt Damon,
Oblivion started the whole sci-fi thing for me. I'm like, man, and it's a beautiful movie. At least
you know, sci-fi existed for years before Oblivion came out.
But this summer,
thank God for Tom Cruise.
Yeah, right.
This summer, I mean. It's a beautiful movie. I think it's well done. Copley, whatever the first name is, really good, man. Really good. And also,
I hear he goes up to a foreigner and rips his head off.
He rips his head off.
Yeah,
But John, it has to be done.
yeah, that's the kind of thing
has
that
to be done.
just like in America.
But yeah, you gotta.
I think you just cue the Team America song. America, fuck yeah.
Yeah, freedom isn't free, guys.
Sorry to cut you
freedom
off,
is
John.
not free.
No, I have one other movie that I saw that actually, it was. I guess it seems like it's appropriate to mention it in this episode because it rhymes almost with Lovelace. But it's a movie called Jugface. Have you seen Jugface? Anybody know anything about Jugface?
Jugface.
Jugface is a weird one. It's on demand right now, and it's a new movie that's written and directed by a guy named Chad Kinkle, I believe. Let me make sure I've got that name right. Yeah, it's written and directed by Chad Crawford Kinkle. This actor, Sean Bridgers, he played Johnny Burns on Deadwood. Do you remember the guy who worked under Al Swearingen, the kind of dopey guy?
Yeah.
He's done a lot of indie films, it seems, and he's popped up in a few things. And I noticed him in this, and I heard that he was good in it. And so I checked it out. It's a pretty cool movie in a lot of ways, but it's a great example of a movie that, because it's an indie film, and because of the limitations of the budget, it does a great job of setting up the mood and the atmosphere and the characters. And then when it comes time for the scares, the scares are just right out of like a Sci-Fi Channel movie or any number of kind of low-budget movies. It's like the style of the movie changes when they get to the scares. So it's got atmosphere and it's pretty good. And then when they get to the scares, it's like cheap video effects and the shooting style. It just does not work. It falls apart completely around the scares.
Ronald, did you know there was a Sci-Fi Channel? I didn't know because I don't know if you learned about that after you saw Oblivion or not.
It dates back to when Oblivion was released in May of.
It was created right after Oblivion's opening weekend.
The first of its kind.
Yeah.
The Rosa Parks of sci-fi movies.
You got a lot of things to enjoy, Ronald. Actually, I can make a list for you. There's several things. Even as early as like 2000, 2005, there were sci-fi films.
No way, John. No. Now you're talking crazy.
I know.
I have to check out Jugface.
Yeah, it's interesting. I would say that the concept behind the horror aspect of it is there's this little group of people. It's hard to tell whether they're a family or whether they're just a small town that is on the edge of these woods, and in the woods there's this pit that they kind of make sacrifices to, and it's almost like it heals them and it cures people, but it also demands a price, and every now and then it requires that a sacrifice be made. And that's kind of where the movie sets up, is the idea of a person who knows it's their time to be sacrificed, doing everything they can to evade being punished. And we see that the toll that the spirit or the demon or whatever it is that's in this pit, it kind of, until the right person is sacrificed, it will keep killing people and awful things keep happening. And so it's a neat setup for a movie. And like I said, it just falls apart around the scares. And it makes the mistake of, when it does finally bring the supernatural elements into them, to the movie, they're just not as well developed and interesting as the character stuff going into that. I would say for the performance of Sean Bridgers as a kind of simpleton named Dewey, who is actually the local person who is sort of involved in choosing who the person to be sacrificed is, and so he has an interesting role. He does a really good job, as does Lauren Ashley Carter as Ada, the main character. You know, there's a couple of instances of kind of overacting around that. Sean Young is in it, and she it's hard to say whether she's just playing. It's kind of like Sharon Stone's character in Lovelace. There's a certain amount of overacting. When an actress is given that kind of character where she's just going to play sort of a nasty, mean mother, sometimes those characters come off as really over the top. Yeah. In this movie, you do get to see that underneath that cruelty, there are reasons for it. Like, there's a reason why the mother has this attitude. And in the end, the morality of this movie is just very Old Testament. Eye for an eye type stuff, that if you anger this spirit, then you will be punished, and there's nothing you can really do to avoid it. So in that sense, I would say it's a neat story, but I really wish they could have come up with a more innovative and kind of artistic way to shoot the scary scenes, because the atmosphere just completely goes up in smoke every time the supernatural elements manifest themselves. It instantly becomes like a dumber movie when it gets to those parts. But I would actually, recommend seeing it. If I know, Steve, you're a horror guy and you might be prone to check anything out.
Sounds something cool.
I think it's actually pretty interesting, and the moments, it's more thought provoking ultimately than it is scary. But that's not really a problem. It's just a movie that it had a bit more potential than it managed to fulfill. Lovelace, Jugface.
Oh, they rhyme.
Yeah. See what I did there?
All right, so are we going to talk about our feature film now?
I think we will.
An hour into the podcast. Let's get to the feature film. Oh, yeah. If you stuck this far. So Kick-Ass 2. Raise your hand if you've seen Kick-Ass 1. Okay, good. All three of us. Good. Making sure. So this film, the sequel, not directed by Matthew Vaughn, which it definitely suffers from. Mm-hmm. Although I did read that Matthew Vaughn he still produced it, picked the director and writer of the film, Jeff Wadlow, among other submissions that they had. I'd say if you were a fan of Kick-Ass, I think that you would probably still like this movie. I came out of the theater saying I still enjoyed it. I had fun with it. My biggest complaint, I'd say, just to get it out right now, is that I feel like where the first one kind of winked at a lot of the cliches that happens in the superhero action movies or whatever, this movie, I think they almost fall into a lot of them. there's more of them where they're actually involved in those things that the first film kind of laughed at or made fun of or turned on its ear. Which I think I don't know if the comics go that route, because I'm not really very in tune with the source material. But that was my biggest issue with the movie overall. I still found it really entertaining, very funny. I was into a lot of the action set pieces, even if I felt like there was maybe issues with how they were approached. But yeah, I don't know. I felt like if you like the first one, it's not as good as or better than that. Don't get me wrong, but I think it's still pretty entertaining for what it is. And the fact that a movie like this in coming out in August usually isn't the best sign that it's going to be great. I think it's still pretty solid.
I think it's in that sense, if the first one kind of winked at superhero movies, which it definitely did, and it felt almost like a stale idea when it came out, but it made something fresh out of it. I mean, I think superhero parodies at this point are as stale as the superhero tropes that they parody. At this point, all the obvious jokes about superheroes and Kick-Ass somehow managed to avoid all those obvious jokes about superheroes. Yeah. And I think this movie, you might be right, Steve, that it's almost a little more absurd and it goes a little bit more to these extremes. But in a sense, I think that if Kick-Ass was a tweak of the superhero movies, then Kick-Ass 2 is almost like a tweak of sequels, because everything's a little bit sillier, a little bit bigger,
That's true.
A little bit more fun and kind of expanded. I don't know that the movie really had a tone, and I think that was a problem I had with it, is that, and I don't remember this being as much of an issue with the first one, where it was sort of like it would be funny and then it would be gory and then it was hard to take the threats seriously because it got so silly in some spots, and then it was maybe hard to laugh at some of the jokes that were happening while really unpleasant stuff was going on in some spots. I don't think throughout I had that issue. I think overall I thought, and I think I said this to you, Steve, that if I were judging it based on the highest highs that it hit, there were moments where I was, where the whole row was rocking with laughter at things that were happening. And then there were moments where I was a little bit like, I don't know if I'm ready to laugh at that, or I don't know what that was supposed to elicit from me. Yeah. But I found myself continually surprised by the gore and continually surprised by just how many twists and turns they were able to follow with these characters and still ultimately follow a nice character arc that didn't really feel like a story. I didn't feel like there was much of a story to it. I think the character arc was pretty well developed. I don't know that I never really felt like the villains were that much of a threat. I think it's a little bit lacking in style and cohesion that the first one had, but ultimately it's not like a stumble of any sort. What do you think, Ronald?
Yeah, the more I think about it, it felt a lot drier than the first one.
Yeah.
I thought that I'd like Jim Carrey in the movie, and I wound up not liking him. And I see why he kind of separated himself from it. He kind of phoned it in a little bit. Like it didn't feel like a strong Jim Carrey performance.
Well, Jim Carrey is in the movie very much in the capacity that Nicolas Cage was in the first one, where he's kind of brought in to be a certain type of superhero. In this case, he seems like kind of a mix of like the Punisher and Captain America.
Yeah.
And
with all these religious conflicts, I don't know.
I mean, I think the character. I thought Jim Carrey was fine. I just don't think that that the character was as fun as the character of Big Daddy, played by Nicolas Cage in the previous one.
That's it, yep.
And that is like clearly what it was meant to remind you of. Is that okay? Here's the established actor kind of doing a role that you might not expect them to do. I don't think Jim Carrey was bad. I just don't know that there was as much to enjoy about that role. But I agree with you. I was sort of expecting to be more blown away by what he did rather than kind of going, oh, that's Jim Carrey, and he's given it his all. And of course it was hard not to think about the story we talked about, where he has, I don't know if we ever talked about it on the podcast though, that Jim Carrey has backed away from doing any publicity for Kick-Ass 2 because of, he feels that since he shot it, there've been so much violence in the news that he doesn't want to promote such a violent film. Whatever you think of that decision, it was hard not to think about that every minute I saw him on screen, to think like, oh, he thought this was too violent. His scenes weren't even the worst ones.
Yeah.
What did you think of the violence in this movie, though? There definitely was a lot.
I mean, well, there was something about the violence in the first one that felt a lot more exciting. The way this was done, I don't know. It's kind of like sort of thing I was talking about when it came to the rhythm of the scares in The Conjuring. Mm-hmm. The way that, you would think the beats of it, you would think something was going to happen, then nothing happened, and then it happened when you least expected it. The violence in this was like almost kind of like almost like clockwork, and it didn't feel like it. I feel like violence should be done for a reason. You know what I mean? And and I like that Hit Girl is an amazing, like, small girl that can do all these amazing things and flip around and shoot people in the head and stuff like that. But it just didn't hit like the first one did. None of the violence hit. It was a lot. And kind of putting it in between. It's kind of the same idea like we were talking about before. It's almost like Matthew Vaughn understood what made this story great and unique and powerful and cool, and this person completely missed it. And the more I thought about the movie, the more I didn't like how it felt a little mistreated. This script felt a little, the story felt a little mistreated.
Well, I think sometimes, I think all of that to me sounds like a symptom of sequelitis. It sounds like what happens when you come back to the well and you're trying to hit the same spots and you're trying to retell some of the same jokes you did the time before, and you're trying to do different spins on it, and things necessarily, as I said before, just get kind of bigger and dumber. And I think that there were some moments in this that were really kind of fun to watch. Like, I'm thinking particularly there was a character named Mother Russia. Yeah. There's a scene where she just dismantles some cops. That was a great scene. Kept escalating and getting more and more absurd, and I kept thinking, okay, this is the world we're in. This is the world of Kick-Ass that we're in. That kind of, and if you've read the comics, I think you have read some of the Kick-Ass comics.
I read the first one and some of the second.
It's definitely like a harsh, sort of cruel world that it takes place in, and there's a lot of really kind of mean violence.
Less comic relief. It's like it's like a joke, and then, but it's not like it's humor in the way that Spider-Man likes to joke around, but it's not like. Ha ha ha. And that's kind of what bothered me about the second one. You have source material. You aren't making this up. Like, the first one is almost exactly the same as the first set of Kick-Ass comics. So it was almost scene for scene. Some scenes were almost exactly the same. So if 2 was supposed to do the same thing, I don't really understand why it was. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that I'm not excited to say everyone run out and go see this movie, but it is kind of recommended if you like the first one. But I agree, it definitely had that. There was something about it that just sort of felt like on a scene-to-scene basis, there would be stuff that really worked and there'd be stuff that really didn't, and there were moments where you felt like the movie paused for a laugh that nobody in the audience experienced, and then there'd be moments where everyone would be, you wouldn't hear the next line because there would be so much laughter. One scene I thought that really, those tonal issues that I was talking about that really stood out was there's a scene where we're introduced to this group of superheroes. These the premise in this film is that Kick-Ass, who, if you remember from the first film, was a high school student who just decides to be a superhero. In this, he has kind of lost his trainer and doesn't have anybody to work with, and he's looking for other superheroes, and he meets this group that's already getting together called Justice Forever, and that's actually the group led by Jim Carrey as Colonel Stars and Stripes. And we meet this ragtag group of, kind of low-budget superheroes. And there's this one pair of superheroes that's, a couple, a husband and wife, who've lost their son. Who's, I think Remember Tommy is their superhero name. And, there's enough kind of dark humor in that I wasn't really taken aback by. But it was interesting noting that the audience didn't know how to react when everyone was going around and telling their origin of their powers. And it's all kind of silly stuff. And then you get to them saying their motivation for being superheroes is that they want to fight crime after their son was kidnapped and presumably murdered. Did you notice that there was just kind of a lull in the audience? Like, there were people that started laughing and then realized, wait a minute, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to laugh at this. Yeah. And then they kind of quieted down. And then what people end up chuckling at is that these characters have like fanny packs on and they look a little dorky, and that kind of becomes the joke of them. Yeah. But I think it was weird that, I don't know, at that moment I was like, okay, right now the audience seems to be experiencing the way I feel about this movie overall, which is, part of me thinks this kind of violence and stuff is really funny, and another part of me thinks like, wow, this really is over the top, and it really is, like seemingly, it's almost got like a video game like sensibility about like achieving that kill. There's some really, I will say there's something involving a lawnmower that I definitely grimaced.
I love that. That was so crazy.
But there's some really awful deaths for people in this movie, and most of it is played for laughs. And I personally was not shocked by it, but I could imagine this being the type of movie that is the nightmare of all those groups that say that, film violence is getting so bad. Like, this is exactly the kind of movie that people are fantasizing when they talk about that here's a movie that has awful things happening to people, and it's definitely played for humorous purposes.
Kick-Ass 1 felt like Kick-Ass. The second one felt like Super, the Rainn Wilson movie. Mm-hmm. It felt a little more less
You mean the James Gunn movie?
The James Gunn movie. Well, the one that starred.
Which is so funny.
Wilson.
You know the way Netflix gives you the recommended if you like at the bottom. If you're looking at Netflix on an iPad,
Yeah.
you've got the little thumbnails at the bottom.
Scroll, yeah.
So Henry has been watching like superhero movies recently on the iPad. So he's seen the Avengers, and he looked down there, and Super was one of the recommended if you like type
Wow.
things. And the small version, he kind of looks like the Flash. And there's someone else wearing kind of green behind him. So Henry thought it was the Justice League. And he kept saying, there's a
Wow.
Justice League movie on there. Can I watch it? And I said, probably so, buddy. Let me check. And when I looked on there and I realized it was James Gunn's movie Super, which if anyone's seen it, it's definitely, I mean, it's not even just not for kids. It's not even for adults. It's pretty depraved.
The scene where he hits the man in the face with the wrench and it's like face caves in and he just bleeds out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Henry, that's not for you. Yeah. That's not Flash. That's not Flash.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'd say check it out.
I mean, it didn't really raise or lower my expectations. I kind of went into this one with almost zero expectation. I don't know if it's not like I expected it to be bad. I just, I didn't have much writing on it, and therefore any entertainment value I got out of it was a bonus.
Nah,
I don't know. I thought it was fun. I mean, I think, like I said, in perspective of when it's coming out and what else is offered right now in theaters. I mean, not. I mean, there are some ones like Ron talking about Elysium that came out last week, but new releases this week. I mean, I'd say, like, again, if you are just looking for entertainment and if you are okay with the kind of movie that it is and Kick-Ass was, I'd definitely recommend seeing it in theaters. I mean, I don't love the film, but I think I had a good time with it, and I think it'd be fun just to check it out in theaters. But
And by the way, we can go. We should go ahead and start doing this as a public service. Let people know if you wait through the credits, there is something after the credits.
yeah, there's a stinger.
Yeah, I don't know about this stinger whether you're going to walk out with a sick feeling in your stomach or not from
It's
this
a mild
ending.
sting. It's a mild sting.
Right. But still, we should keep that in mind.
We should do that from now on. Yeah,
we should always remember
it's worth sticking around.
because I've become annoyed. Doesn't matter what kind of movie it is. Now I'm afraid that they're going to throw something.
You're
on.
waiting for it at the end. Yep. Kick-Ass 2.
Yeah,
I say check it out.
it's
Yeah,
a.
I'd say check
Are we
it
giving
out,
it a go ahead?
Yeah,
I'm
I'd
giving
say
it a
so.
go ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Go ahead.
You know what you're in for.
I'd say see it. I'm not super enthusiastic about saying that, but yeah.
And on that note, Ronald has just deflated right into the microphone.
Yeah.
That's episode 80, I think.
yeah,
I think
that's it.
it's getting to that point where we're gonna draw.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Well, what else, Ronald? Well, I saw. Blip, blip, blop, blip.
And I'll just talk
There's a
about-
lot of movies. We talked a lot about a lot.
We did.
Yeah.
We do that a lot.
We talked a lot of shit.
But it's nice to cover a lot of films. I feel like it's been a while since we've come in here with this much to talk about. If next time we try to all see the same movies, it'll be even better.
That's true. We can align
sure.
with each other.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys. Movieshmovie.net. It still exists. I didn't sell the domain off yet.
Yeah.
I am taking bids though. I'm going to start an eBay auction for it. But you can still hit that up if you want to check the podcast out on there. Movieshmovie@gmail.com if you have suggestions, feedback for topics, or what we're doing right or wrong. If it's something that we're doing wrong, just don't email us. It's
Right.
actually not the right email address. I just
What
gave
you should do is what they tell you to do in those situations. Write the email, like take 5 minutes, walk around the block, come back, read it, and then delete it. Just so you get it off your chest.
That is the proper workflow. Yes.
It's like putting it in a bottle and sending it off in the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're a shithead if you complain.
Ronald's got this new positive outlook, but he states
Ever
it,
since he found sci-fi,
but he states it in a really downbeat way. He's like, yeah, if you're gonna complain, just
the future's so bleak.
yeah, right.
Thank you for listening.
There's this new thing I've heard of called a dystopia, guys.
Brand new.
Ronald's going to find out about Blade Runner being made in 1982, and he's going to think they must have been time travel.
Like, what?
Someone
What is
saw
that about?
Oblivion and went back in time to 1982 and made more
And made,
movies.
like,
Totally stole that idea from goddamn Oblivion.
Yep.
All right, guys. Good times.
Mm-hmm.
Episode 80.
Yeah.
In the books.
And as you usually do, you've made our day.
As usual, you made us gay.
Aw.
No, I didn't. What?
That happened.